Hey everyone, it's Jack from Cultaholic.com, and you know what time of the week it is. It's Friday. Got to get down on Friday. Actually, it's Thursday at the time of recording because it's bank holiday for us in the UK on Friday, so I'm off tomorrow. But, you know, this will be going out on Friday. It's Friday for you. It's Friday. Mandatory to get down on Friday. You know the rest of it. Everyone's looking forward to the weekend. And it's time for my wrestlers of the week. This week's been an eventful one, or about as eventful as things can get in these lockdown times. Things have been going on in WWE. Things have been going on in AEW. There was even a really good match over in Japan. So let's just dive into it. Let's take a look at all of my wrestlers of the week. Starting, of course, with some honourable mentions. Over on NXT, Adam Cole successfully defended his NXT Championship against Velveteen Dream. We had Scarlett Bordeaux and Killer Cross, or Karrion Cross, making one hell of an impactful debut, even though the match didn't last very long because it was a squash match. We had Brody Lee announcing his intention to be the next AEW World Champion, and Otis beat Dolph again. Not as emotional as the one at WrestleMania, but, you know, he beat him again, so honourable mention for you, Otis. But with all that out of the way, let's crack on with the top 10. And my number 10 this week, picking up one solitary point, is Umberto Carillo. Now, this week on Raw, if you didn't see it, there was another one of those really long gauntlet matches that often WWE excel at. Unfortunately, this one wasn't as good, but the star of the show was indeed Umberto Carillo. He survived, I think 3 opponents. I think it was Lashley who got DQ'd for beating him up too much, which wasn't brilliant. But then Umberto managed to see off both Angel Garza and Austin Theory, I think rolling up both of them while getting more and more tired, until eventually, when he was on the cusp of winning this gauntlet match and securing entry thereby into the Money in the Bank ladder match on Sunday, he was defeated by the returning AJ Styles. But it was a good effort from Carillo. He wrestled for a long time, and of course everything was kind of just to get over the fact that AJ Styles is back. He's going to be in the Money in the Bank ladder match, but it was still okay. I still quite enjoyed it, and even though the booking wasn't quite there for me, I still had to appreciate the performance that Umberto Carillo gave. On one hand, it's quite sad because I would have liked to have seen Carillo in that Money in the Bank ladder match, but on the other hand, of course, AJ Styles is the biggest star. It makes it more of a worthwhile attraction if AJ Styles is in there. One negative as well about this whole match was afterwards, AJ didn't really, I know Ross has been tearing his hair out about this, AJ didn't really explain how he got out of that grave at the end of the Boneyard match, which, yeah, I was disappointed by as well because I really enjoy logic. But still, a good performance from Umberto Carillo, well worthy of a spot on Wrestlers of the Week. And even though it was imperfect, it was still a decent performance. So 1 point for Umberto Carillo. Now let's take a look at number 9. Next up, a wrestler who did double duty this week, and it's none other than the current NXT Women's Champion, Charlotte Flair. Now, in a similar way to Umberto Carillo, Charlotte put in a great effort this week. She wrestled twice on 2 brands, but again, the booking wasn't quite there for me, which explains her relatively low placing on this week's top 10. First, she showed up on Raw and defeated Liv Morgan, which I don't think was a matchup that really needed to happen. Liv was picking up a bit of momentum recently, and it was sad to see that just cut short by Charlotte Flair, which, you know, WWE have often been guilty of doing over the past few years. Someone's getting built up, they run into Charlotte, and they go no further. But still, the match was a decent one, and it was possibly Liv Morgan's best singles match ever. Good performance from Charlotte. Then she rolled into NXT on Wednesday night and took on Io Shirai. Again, while the match was good, and I really enjoyed this one, Io was fantastic in the ring, and so was Charlotte, to be fair. I just didn't enjoy the booking once again. Charlotte deliberately getting herself DQ'd with the use of a kendo stick, and it all sets up, you know, I don't think this is the end of Charlotte versus Io, but it all sets up involving Rhea Ripley and things, maybe leading to a triple threat somewhere down the line. But despite me not really enjoying the booking of either of those matches, the action itself was good. Charlotte has again proven why she is one of the top women's wrestlers in the entire world, and why she's really hard to beat, because no one's really beating her. Yes, Io technically beat her, but she didn't really, did she? Come on now. Come on now, friends. Number 8. Let's talk about that main event street fight / Falls Count Anywhere, whatever it was, over on AEW Dynamite. And picking up 3 points this week is probably the least active man in the match, but still one who provided a lot of entertainment throughout. And his name is, of course, Matt Hardy. The match was cleverly structured so that Matt didn't really have too much to do, but whenever he did, it was something memorable. So he started off the match and got beaten behind, like back through the entrance tunnel by Jericho, and came back dressed as young Matt Hardy, like a Hardy boy Matt Hardy, Team Extreme. Oh yeah, so cool. And after dishing out a few side effects and a few twists of fate, he then got locked in an ice box, which was brilliant, and then returned in time to save his tag partner, dressed as the current version of Matt Hardy, Damascus, broken Matt Hardy, and then tried to murder everyone with a golf cart, which was An interesting strategy, I'll give him that. He didn't shy away from the high spots either. Early on in the match, he jumped off a ladder to put Sammy Guevara through a table. Later on, he was put through a table himself in the concourse. Yeah, a good performance from Matt Hardy. Even though he was absent from a lot of portions of the match, he still managed to make an impact where he could. I'm going to talk about it a bit more later on, but if you haven't seen it, check it out. It's hilarious. In the best possible way. Number 7, picking up 4 points this week, is Cody Rhodes, who had a good match, a solid match on AEW Dynamite, probably my second favourite match of the night, behind, of course, that main event. Cody took on Joey Janela in the opening bout, and it was a good one. I praised it on Graded for being a bit inventive. It wasn't your standard sort of match. They were doing things, both guys, that we weren't really used to them seeing very much. Cody did the disaster kick to the outside of the ring and moonsaulted off the ramp to the floor, which is a bit of a twist on his usual offense. It was cool to see. Joey Janela also pulled a few things out of the bag as well, a couple of nifty reversals of the crossroads, but in the end it was Cody who picked up the win. He did so by very cleverly, I think he deliberately played possum maybe. There was a strike exchange with both guys really tired. Janela seemed to have rattled Cody. Cody was staggering. Janela turned away to hit the ropes. Cody just grabbed him, immediately hit a crossroads, and that was it. That was enough for the win. It's going to be really interesting to see what's next for Cody, because obviously elsewhere on the show, his wife was attacked by Jake Roberts. Well, she was attacked by Britt Baker, but Jake Roberts put a snake on her, and it was that sort of throwback kind of iconic thing to when Jake Roberts used to do that in the WWF, and it kind of worked and kind of didn't in ways, but it does escalate the heat and the rivalry between Cody and Brandy and Lance Archer and Jake the Snake. So I am very much looking forward to the final of the TNT Championship tournament to crown the inaugural TNT champion, of course, and it's going to take place at Double or Nothing. It could steal the show. Both guys are really, really good. They know how to tell a story in the ring. I just don't know who I want to win. Part of me actually wants Lance Archer to win. I think that would be really cool. Next up, back to that hilarious street fight, and it's time to talk about the Spanish God himself, Sammy Guevara. Sammy wasn't the standout of this match in terms of dishing out moves, but he took so much punishment, from that spot off the ladder through the table that I mentioned earlier with Matt Hardy to the one that we're all thinking of, bumping like a madman off a moving golf cart which just ran him down. It was so funny. It looked brutal, but it was so funny. Sammy also, maybe unwittingly, created a meme in his running away from the golf cart, which was being piloted by the babyfaces. It was so funny, man. Sammy is so good. Many people have been pointing out that since Dynamite started, really, since AEW started maybe even, he has been a real standout and one of the true breakout stars of All Elite Wrestling. And he picked up the win as well. The heels won the match, although they did have a considerable assist from other members of the Inner Circle. Hager got involved fairly early on to save Sammy from a pinfall from Matt Hardy by pulling the ref out the ring, and Santana and Ortiz got involved as well and firmly turned the tide in the favour of the heels. And that was unfortunate for fans of Kenny Omega and Matt Hardy, but we don't have time to dwell on that because now we're moving to Impact to talk about the reigning and defending X Division champion, Willie Mac. Mac took part in one of the best pure wrestling matches, I think, of this week, especially on TV. It was an Impact show, and he was in a triple threat match against Ace Austin and Chris Bay, two fellow members of the X Division. Ace Austin was, of course, the man that Willie Mac took the X Division title from. Chris Bay has been really impressing recently too, but for me, Willie Mac is one of the best things about Impact right now. A great choice as the X Division champion, and he proved it here with a really, really good performance. And quite correctly, I think, he picked up the win. I don't think that damages the other two guys too much, but I'm waiting just to see who the next contender for that X Division title is, because Impact has a sneakily good roster when you really look at it. There's a lot of talent there, and I think that maybe we could get quite an inventive series of matches with people trying to take that title from the popular babyface champion. But that all remains to be seen. Obviously, everything's up in the air at the moment with the lockdown and everything, but for now, I think Impact have made a really good booking decision putting that X Division title on Willie Mac. As I've mentioned in the past, not a traditional looking X Division champion who are normally, smaller, more nimble guys, but Willie Mac has deceptive agility for his size, and that's never stopped former champions like Samoa Joe, for example. Next up, number 4, picking up 7 big points. It's the man who still insists on calling himself Le Champion, despite the fact that he dropped the title quite a little while ago now. And for me, the heart and soul of this insane street fight to close out Dynamite, it is, of course, Chris Jericho. Jericho didn't pull off the craziest spots in this match. He didn't do the most inventive things. He didn't take the craziest bumps, but he did constantly bring the entertainment. That's why I say he was the heart and soul of this match. He infused this match with so much personality. It was often quite hard to take your eyes away from the screen. There were hilarious moments like the pose at the end with the rest of the Inner Circle in front of the Jaguars Stadium and the Tron spelling Inner Circle, and Jericho's just absolutely healing it up for the camera. There were moments like my favorite moment of the match, I think, the icebox spot where Matt Hardy tried to shove Jericho in the icebox. Jericho pulled out a giant block of ice, launched it at Matt Hardy, and turned the tide and locked Matt Hardy in the icebox. And it was just genius on so many levels. I can't explain how much this icebox spot, made me laugh. Because sometimes wrestling is complicated. Sometimes it's about technical exchanges and counters and everything. Sometimes it's about awe-inspiring feats of athleticism and strength. Sometimes it's about picking up a massive wedge of ice and just launching it at your opponent. And I think nothing really captured the simplicity of wrestling as well in the past 20 years as that ice spot. I'm joking, but honestly, I absolutely loved it. So Jericho was brilliant here. He continues to be a constant highlight of AEW, whether he's on commentary, whether he's in the ring, whether he was, when he was champion, or whether he's not even a champion, but still bringing the entertainment to each and every week of AEW programming. He really is an asset for the company, and he picks up 7 points this week. Number 3, picking up 8 points, it's Kenny Omega, who I think just about was probably the best performer in this match, despite not winning. There were several great moments from Omega. Everyone's talking about the scissor lift moonsault where he went up high and then just moonsaulted off, like his former tag partner Ibushi would in the sort of a DDT style match. He was part of the golf cart spot. He was part of the stuff in the ring earlier on. But most importantly, I think Omega was really the glue that held this match together. When Matt Hardy was getting changed into his next outfit, or when the heels were beating Kenny Omega down, he was constantly keeping us involved and invested in the match. Whether he was on offense or he was on defense, he was really, really good. Unfortunately though, he did take the fall. I've seen a bit of criticism actually online saying that here's Omega taking another pinfall, losing another match in AEW, but I think it's fine under such circumstances. It was effectively by the end a 5-on-2 beatdown by the Inner Circle, and once they'd isolated Kenny and taken Matt Hardy out of the equation, well, then the result was never in doubt. I don't think it damages Kenny that much. I still think he looks strong, and I absolutely cannot wait for Hangman Adam Page to come back and for that excellent tag team title storyline to just continue rolling on. Who will Omega and Page face next? My heart says the Revival, or the Revolt as they are now known, but I don't know. I honestly don't know. I think it could be anyone really. The tag team division is very strong in AEW. Maybe when the Revival come in, they'll immediately just face off against the Young Bucks. No one will be complaining about that, freeing up another set of challengers perhaps to challenge Omega and Hangman for those belts. I don't know. We'll wait and see, but for now, great week for Kenny Omega yet again, and he continues to be the leader of the Wrestlers of the Week league table. Number 2, now right, with all of the craziness that went on this week, from epic long gauntlet matches that didn't quite work on Raw, to really exciting debuts on NXT, to that thing on Dynamite, that I've talked about that match enough. There needed to be just a really good match this week, just a good solid singles match between two excellent wrestlers, and thankfully we got that courtesy of DDT over in Japan. That's why my number 2 this week is the loser of that match, Tetsuo Endo. Often we celebrate people on the rise on Wrestlers of the Week, people who are launching up through that glass ceiling, breaking up into the next layer of stardom, but sometimes we also like to celebrate those who put other people over in a big way. And if there ever was a passing of the torch match that I've personally seen in DDT, this was it. Endo is a former King of DDT champion, the top belt in the company. He's not been the most dominant champion of all time, but he has held the belt in the past few years, and that means that he's got a lot of stock in the company. He's got a presence. He's definitely a main eventer, and he just delivered an absolute masterclass here in putting over a fresher, newer opponent on the DDT scene. I'm not saying he was putting over some absolute rookie, but he was putting over somebody who's not yet been there and done that like Endo has. And Endo did it with his customary excellence in the ring. His experience really showed in this match, particularly because his opponent isn't that experienced. I think he's been in DDT for a few years and only really wrestling for a couple more years after that. So Endo really had to take the lead in this match and did so brilliantly. And yeah, passed up the victory, didn't win, which I think was the right call, but because it leads to a very exciting match down the line, which I'll talk about in a second. But I do feel for Endo, because he really did win me over in this match. I thought he was excellent, but I understand the booking decision that they made. And the match was, of course, for the, the King of DDT Challenge Sword, which I assume, I don't know the ins and outs of it, but I assume it's like the Money in the Bank briefcase. It's a guaranteed title shot. I don't know if there's any special rules, like if it's 24/7, if you can cash it in at any time, but it's a number 1 contendership status symbol. Endo didn't get that. Again, I think that was the right call, But after this performance, I certainly wouldn't be mad seeing him have another title reign in the near future. I think he's earned it. And he's also earned 9 points on Wrestlers of the Week. And so, number 1, his opponent, picking up 10 points this week, and my Wrestler of the Week, it's Kazusada Higuchi. Honestly, until this week, I was not too familiar with Higuchi. He's very much a star on the rise in DDT, but it looks like he could be their next big star if they play their cards right. I've already talked about the background of this match, about how Endo put over the newer guy, and I mean, he's not that young, he's 31, so still relatively fresh in wrestling terms. He's not like some 20-year-old coming through the ranks, but he does lack a little bit of experience. He seems to have come into wrestling a little bit later in life, probably in his mid-20s, and I think he looks excellent in there. He looks primed and ready for a main event run, and possibly even a King of DDT championship reign, and I think after this match, I'm all for it. I did a bit of research, read some things on him. Apparently, over the past few years, he has become more consistent, but apparently Higuchi often does struggle with consistency. And I think, really, that's only going to improve over time. And certainly in this match, he looked primed and ready to go. I would not complain if they slapped the belt on him straight away. For those who haven't seen him, he's a big dude, and he's kind of a throwback. He seems like one of those 90s kind of All Japan wrestlers, or maybe even New Japan if you're looking at someone like Hashimoto. He really is a unit and somebody who you just can tell is hard to knock down, and he dishes out punishment as well, big strikes, just a really tough, mean looking guy in the ring. But also you want to get behind him because he's on the rise. And with the help of Endo, Higuchi certainly did make the most of this opportunity. He won the match, he is now in possession of the sword, the challenge sword or whatever, so I guess that's going to lead to a match between himself and Masato Tanaka, who, remember, is currently the DDT champion, somewhere down the line. Now that match would be just an absolute brawl because it's Tanaka against another strike-heavy opponent. I would hope, maybe, that it would be a hardcore stipulation of some sort because it's Tanaka, but then again, I don't want to see Tanaka get badly hurt, and they'd probably use glass and stuff, so I don't know what kind of match it's going to be. But even without a stipulation, it's a match I'm really looking forward to should it go down, because both guys hit bloody hard. We'll see how it goes. Tanaka might not even be the champion by the time this sword is cashed in, is plunged into the heart of the champion. I don't like that implication, but he might not even be champion, is my point, by the time that Higuchi gets his title shot. Hopefully he is, because I do want to see that match. So well done, Kazusada Higuchi. You have 10 points, and that means that you are my Wrestler of the Week. Now, let's take a look at the league table. Kenny Omega extends his lead at the top to 50 points. He's the first man to hit the 50-point mark, with Cody rocketing up into third place, passing, of course, the current King of DDT champion, Masato Tanaka. A little bit further down, we see Sammy Guevara continuing to just inch his way up the table. He has been very, very consistent recently. And a little bit further down from that, we see a lot of big names, especially Charlotte Flair there, who, of course, I mentioned, pulled double duty this week. I didn't like the booking, but I liked the wrestling that she did. And that's it for this week's Wrestlers of the Week. Thank you very much for watching. I've been Jack from Cultaholic.com. Let me know who you thought was good in the comments section down below. Stay safe out there, stay positive, and I will see you very soon. Money in the Bank on Sunday. Hooray. Looking forward to it.